Manchester United considering late-minute bid for Joao Neves. Manuel Ugarte tells PSG that he wants to leave the club to join Manchester United, and Erik ten Hag publicly backs Antony to turn good this season. These are some of the stories we will be discussing on this episode, but before we get into that, please smash a like on today's video. Let's try and see 1,000 likes on today's show. If this is your first time watching, please also subscribe to the channel. I'm live every day at 8:30, 1:30 and 6 p.m. UK time. So if you want to stay up to date with all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk, make sure you subscribe. Everyone is welcome. Right, I want to first react to Erik ten Hag's comment about Antony. So he was asked about Antony after the game against Rangers yesterday, the 2-0 win. And Erik ten Hag says this. He says, "I am still convinced that Antony has the potential to play for Manchester United." He says he certainly showed that potential in the first month at the club. He scored 3 goals in his first 3 games. After that, it became more difficult and last season was not good for him. Now, I want you all to let me know, does Antony have a future at Manchester United? Erik ten Hag seems to think so, but I think it's fair to say that Erik ten Hag is probably trying to cover his back because he was an Erik ten Hag signing. I know he didn't negotiate the transfer fee. I appreciate that. Okay, that was Richard Arnold and John Murtough, who, let's be honest, weren't particularly great at their jobs, right? They weren't. Compared to what we've got now, John Murtough and Richard Arnold messed up so many transfers. They spent 3 months negotiating for Frankie de Jong to say, I don't want to join you. They bought Antony for 100 million euros. And although Erik ten Hag wanted Antony, it wasn't him who made the negotiation. But still, do I think Antony has a future at Manchester United? With the emergence of Ahmad, I just can't see it. Antony's 24 years of age now, right? Which I know is still relatively young, but when you think of the options that Manchester United have got in that right-wing position, you've got Ahmad, who was unbelievable yesterday against Rangers. You've got Sancho, who at the moment is unsellable. Not because he's good, but because no one wants to buy him. You've got Sancho, Ahmad, Rashford, Garnacho, Pellistri, and there's probably some others that I've forgotten, right? That's 5 players, all fighting for one position. You throw Antony into the mix, who got picked every single game last season when he shouldn't have, let's be clear. He was Erik ten Hag's favourite, and I can understand that why. Erik ten Hag's name is attached to 100 million euros on Antony's head, you know? So he has to try and make him work. But it's been 2 years now. I gave Antony the benefit of the doubt last season. I know this time last year, a lot of you were like, get rid of Antony, he's not good enough, all the rest of it. And I said, I'm not going to judge a player on the first year. His first year was okay. His second year was terrible. And we're now going into the third year. So for me personally, I think the best option for Antony would be a loan move. Send him off somewhere, hope that he can start enjoying football again. And either then you sell him in the future for a higher fee, or you try and bring him back. Because at the moment, his stock price is at rock bottom. I would say we'd be lucky to get 20, 30 million euros for him, genuinely. Lucky. There are probably better players available for less money than that. I mean, for example, Chiesa at Juventus, he's available for 25 million euros this window. I would rather have Chiesa than Antony, without a shadow of a doubt. So no one's going to be looking at Antony thinking they're going to buy him for big money. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Should Manchester United stick with Antony? Do you agree with Erik ten Hag's comments, or do you think he's just effectively having to back a 100 million euros player who, let's be honest, at this point has flopped at Manchester United? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Moving on from that, though, I want to talk a little bit about Manuel Ugarte, and I've got another question for you. If you had to pick between Manuel Ugarte and Joao Neves, who would you go for? I'll give you my answer in a couple of minutes. Let me know in the comment section. So the headline coming out in the last couple of minutes from a very, very reliable French journalist is that apparently the deal between PSG and Manchester United for Manuel Ugarte is now in the final stages. Everything should be agreed and announced in the next week. He says the deal is very advanced. This is coming from a journalist who reports for L'Equipe, which is obviously a Paris-based newspaper outlet. So yeah, that's looking pretty far along. And Fabrizio Romano is also confirming that apparently Manuel Ugarte has told PSG that he wants to leave the club, and he said that he wants to move to Manchester United. He's informed them of that, and he says that apparently Manuel Ugarte has said yes to Manchester United. He's agreed the personal terms, spoke to Erik ten Hag, and he wants the move. So if Man United want Manuel Ugarte, the deal is effectively there to be done. The only stumbling block is, of course, the transfer fee. PSG still asking for 70 million euros. Man United want to pay closer to 50 million euros, but PSG want the money for Joao Neves. they want to go and sign Joao Neves with the money we're going to give them for Manuel Ugarte. And the more I think about that, the more it annoys me. As much as I think Manuel Ugarte is a good player, I think Joao Neves is a generational talent. And I think, you've already got Leny Yoro, you've got Mainu, you've got Højlund, you've got Ahmad, you've got Xerxes, like Garnacho. You're building a team of generational talents now. And I don't really see Manuel Ugarte as a generational talent. I don't think. He's a good CDM, but he could come and do well or he could come and flop. And I know that's a bit of an obvious thing to say, but I don't know. There is always the risk with someone like Manuel Ugarte that he comes and he just doesn't, I don't know, he doesn't like the weather. He doesn't gel in the Premier League. Like that is I know it's the same as any player, but I do just have a little bit of a worry with him, And I know we need a CDM and I know he's a CDM, but I just think that when you put the whole thing into context and you know that Joao Neves is available, we'll talk about him in a minute, and we know that PSG want this 70 million to go and buy Joao Neves, I just think that if you did get Joao Neves, I think in the long run it would be a better signing. I know Joao Neves isn't a CDM, so we'd still have to sign somebody, but there is always Amrabat. Amrabat's available. £12 million is what Fiorentina are asking for. I know he's not world class, but if your centre defensive midfield options for next season were Casemiro and Amrabat, I mean, it's not terrible, is it? Amrabat was all right last season, whereas Ugarte might come and really struggle. We have nothing to go off with Ugarte to say that he's going to come and do well. It's just one season in the Portuguese league. He barely played for PSG last season. So me personally, I'm kind of sticking with my opinion that if there is this opportunity to get Joao Neves and hijack that deal, which we'll talk about in a minute, I would do that. I think it makes a lot more sense. And I think in the long run, we'd be better off. But obviously, I want you to let me know, what would you prefer to do? Should we go ahead with this 70 million euros deal for Ugarte? Or do you think going for someone like Joao Neves is a more safer option in the long run? Because in relation to Joao Neves, the news this evening is that Joao Neves is apparently Manchester United's number one midfield target. The issue Manchester United have is, right, they have the money to match PSG's bid, which is around 75 million euros. But apparently Benfica are demanding a large portion of the money up front, and that's where the stumbling block is. Like we've done with Leny Yoro and like we've done with Xerxes, we've split those deals across like a 5-year period. So with Leny Yoro, I think we're only paying like 10 million this season, 10 million next, and so on. And it's the same with Xerxes. I think we're only paying like 12 million to Bologna this season and 12 million next, and so on. Whereas with this Benfica deal, apparently part of the conditions of selling him for a reduced fee, obviously he has this 120 million euros release clause, which is ridiculous. A part of the conditions of selling him for 75, 80 million is that whichever club buy him have to give them about half of the money up front. That's what's being reported today. And apparently PSG are willing to do that. They're willing to say, here's 40 million, we'll give you the other 40 million in next year or whatever. Whereas I think Man United are looking at it more from like, we'll give you it over a 5-year period, which obviously the reason for that is because of profit and sustainability. If you spread it over a certain amount of years, it effectively allows us to spend more money, doesn't it? Because each window, you're only spending like 12 million opposed to giving 40. Do you see what I mean? So I can understand why Manchester United want to do it this way. But if there is a genuine chance of us to get him and we can make the money side of it work, then I think we should. And I think in the long run, we won't regret it. But yeah, being honest, it does look more like we're going to go for Manuel Ugarte, though, I think, from what I've seen and what I've heard. But there is still this possibility that we'll try and hijack the Joao Neves bid. And it's widely reported that apparently he is our number one target in that position. The last thing I want, right, is halfway through the season, us to find out that Manuel Ugarte was the third option on the list. It was Joao Neves, then it was someone else, and then it was Ugarte. Do you know what I mean? Like, so far, I feel like Erik ten Hag has got his number one targets. Leny Yoro was the number one target. We know that Xerxes was the number one target. And it's been widely reported that Joao Neves is the number one central midfield target. So, yeah, it would be a little bit bittersweet if we lose our number one target to PSG and we effectively facilitate them signing him by giving him the money, i.e. through Manuel Ugarte. We give PSG 70 million. They then go and spend it on Joao Neves, who's our number one target. Like, that's the bit that I can't get my head around. But at this moment, it looks like PSG are way more advanced in the deal for Joao Neves, and that is purely just because of their ability to give Benfica the money up front, which Man United can't apparently do. So yeah, that's the situation on there. I'm going to wrap the video up. Please let me know in the comment section, does Antony have a future at Manchester United? And also, who would you pick between Joao Neves and Manuel Ugarte? Thank you very much for joining me. I will be back later on for a live show. Please make sure to like, drop a comment and subscribe to the channel. This has been Daily Red Devil, and I'll speak to you all in a few hours' time. Bye for now.